Hello. Today I want to talk about the drawing canvas as infinite 3D space. So, a canvas is like everything. There's always a margin of area where you can't draw, whether it be physical or digital. When I say that, I mean if you look here, the bottom here, the bottom here, and the topmost point, I kind of have my banner like here. There are certain areas where I can't draw, but think about the area within that. So when I say that, there are many fundamentals that you have to learn until I believe you could really even try to vaguely grasp the idea as a canvas having space that can exist in the front or in the back. So if I draw this line in the front and I draw this line in the back, it's kind of hard to tell which is which. So it's easier to tell with objects. Well, I would say it all depends. There are many spatial relationships that you could think of when you're trying to do it, like drawing something like that and drawing maybe another line like that. I would be led to believe that this line uh, is closer to the viewer in 3D space than this line. The reason why I say that is because I think the things that kind of show that have to be like the size relationship, the overlapping, although it could always be a bit confusing, and maybe it could even be a bit ambiguous at certain points. I think when you start to draw shapes, such as like a box, more solid 3D things, it becomes more apparent. But it's all about believing the illusion of it, showing what I like to call rendering order, what's in front of what, or perhaps only drawing certain things. And you know what? I think a box is going to take a little bit too long for this example, so I'm going to draw a sphere. So we have a sphere. To show it looks flat, but to make it 3D, I wanted to draw partial ellipse through it to kind of show its 3D nature. So I'm going to draw another ellipse, right? Or another sphere. So this overlap, usually if you were doing some type of exercise, you may do something like that, trying to like get used to perhaps line debt or the whole fact of overlapping things. But if you wanted to truly show that like something was behind it, like if we wanted that sphere, well, if I put it back real quick, we could kind of tell from the spatial relationship that the bigger one is closer to us in 3D space rather than the one over here. So a way to show that that smaller sphere was behind that larger sphere, or they could both be the same size for all we know. You don't have to draw all of it. You could draw a portion of it. And that's kind of like another spatial relationship to show it. Because there's a certain part of our sphere that's obscured because that one is in front of it. So, if you think of things as having depth on the canvas, that's a really good way to help think about everything. Because, like, the canvas is just, it's like space. It's infinite as well, is what I would say. Because, like, I feel like you eventually may run out of paper, but I would say even if you have, like, balls of some sort, you could always, like, draw another ball or another ball behind another ball behind another ball behind another ball, and it can go infinitely. So if you ever learned in math anything about like Cartesian plane. You have Cartesian plane. You'd have coordinates based on various math formulas that you do. You'd plot things in certain areas. Maybe you would plot, you'd plot a line, and you would get various graphs, and sometimes they would be like sine waves, stuff like that. Other times they would do other interesting things as they dip above and below the Cartesian plane. And the thing that makes the canvas a bit different than that is that you can draw 2D things, but you could also draw in space. So, the z-axis or z. I'm trying to think of how to best visualize it, and if I were to visualize it in any way, I'm pretty sure there's a million ways to try to visualize it, but I would think of adding it in this way. Basically, I believe that would be X. I hope I'm doing this right. I don't think that's X. I think this was X, and I think this was Y. Yeah. Whoops, total math blunder there. And this one would be the Z or Z. So I'm kind of having a hard time thinking of it. So with a normal Cartesian plane, you would have just X and Y, but with a infinite canvas, you would also have Z. So perhaps let's say we're plotting a sine wave. I'm not going to do this 100% accurately, but let's say the sine wave is closer to the viewer, so it's larger. But as it goes deeper in 3D space, it's still the same, it's sine wave, so it's repeating. It's still the same, but because it's going further in 3D space, it's kind of becoming a bit smaller. It's like a perspective thing, because things closer to us appear larger and things farther away appear smaller. So I kind of hope that helps explain the whole canvas as something that extends. It's not something that just lives on the surface. It's something that has three-dimensional qualities to it. And, it's like the sky is the limit. You can do so many different things with a canvas. I guess the only other thing that I would want to mention is whether you're working with in landscape or portrait view. That more has to do with the physical size that you're using. I think in the past, landscape would be for a landscape drawing, a big wide open field or some type of historic event or something like that. And I've always thought of portrait view to be you're drawing the portrait of a person. It's like a art thing. So I actually have to make a note about that. But yeah, so I hope this kind of helps explain how the canvas sits in 3D space. It's all up to you to use different relationships to show what. And yeah, I hope that kind of helps explain it. I don't know if maybe this is the best example, but I thought I would make this video because it's something that I've been having a hard time grasping when I was starting to learn to draw. But yeah, if you have a question, please leave it in the comments. If you like my video, please like it. And if you like my channel, please subscribe. Thanks for listening. Bye.